Hello everybody, Sifd again, and today Kaycee's mod launched, so I decided to do a quick video on what it is, how to play it, what the changes are, and pretty much everything that the mod entails. There will be timestamps in the video, so if you want to skip something to not get spoiled or just go to some specific place to see anything you care about, I mean, you can use the timestamps however you want, and yeah, that's what they are there. Anyway, let's begin. So, what is Kaycee's mod? Kaycee's mod is a roguelike version of the game, of Act 1 of the game, because, in case you don't know, the game is a story mode, it's not like a roguelike, so by playing Kaycee's mod, you can always stay in Act 1 and play the game again and again. That's it pretty much. Now, how you play it, it's really simple. When you have beaten the game, you will have access to it right away, but if you have not beaten the game and want to only play Kaycee's mod, you just press Shift, and then K and M together for Kaycee's mod. So you just go boom, and this thing should happen. This will also give you access to every single act of the game. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And this is Kaycee's mod, so let's get to it. I'm gonna start with the changes right away. Here, let's go to the unlock screen. First of all, there are a bunch of changes. So as I said, I'm gonna go one by one through them. And then we're gonna start exploring them in my save file, because right now we obviously are not in my save file. So we go over here just because it has more room for the screens, and yeah, let's begin. So first of all, campfires can only be used twice. Normally you can use them 4 times in a normal game. In this mode you can only use them 2 times in a row, and the chance of your card getting burned is a lot higher than normal, so keep that in mind. That's obviously a balance reason. There is a better cave event. Normally the cave event, when you beat it, you get a card that has, you get a choice between 3 cards that have the 1 sigil on them, while this version gives you 2 sigils, and trust me, 2 sigils are actually a lot better than just 1 sigil. It sounds like something obvious, but when you see it in front of you, you will understand, like, the difference in power level is pretty huge. You can get some very good sigils. You can get like double strike plus gives you an item or something, you know. Let's continue. Next thing, there are no puzzles, so things that they removed is coming up. So no puzzles anymore in the cabin. There are no Leshy trials, so at the end of every fight, when you're about to fight the very final boss at the end of the run, you will not get free buffs. And there are also no death cards anymore, so no free buffs through losing either. It's just a roguelike, you won't be able to add broken cards to it. Leshy will have some specific death cards he has for this mode on the final fight, but other than that, there are no new death cards. Let's go to new things completely. So, first of all, we got a new Goobert paint event. Just so you know, what the event does is you choose a card of yours and it transfers the stats. Well, what am I talking about? No, you choose a card of yours, it copies the card, and then it changes one of its attributes, either in positive or negative. It can either give you +1 attack or -1 attack on the card you copied, or +2 health or -2 health, or it can just change a sigil of it. So I'm gonna upload a run later today where I'm using it, and in general I have a bunch of runs where I use it, so you can go and see it there. Next up, 3 new items unlocked via painting. So it is what it is. It's 3 very specific items. For you to get them, you have to just do the painting event within the cabin. There are no more puzzles, as I said, but the painting is still there. And as in the first part, you unlock the bee and the bee totem and the clover and stuff. Here you unlock through new items that you get right away when you do the painting, and then you also can find in the run. The items specifically are a magpie's eye, which lets you find whatever you want in your deck for 1 time. Clock, which makes everything go around. I mean, in a circle fashion. So you pretty much steal a card from the opponent while also giving him one, but you can make sure that you don't have a card on your left. So in general, like, the clock is insane. And then the last new item is a brush that removes all the sigils from the opposing side. It sounds really meh, but it is actually pretty decent. So there's that. As I said, there will be spoilers here, so whoops. Next thing that you can actually do that does not have to do with unlockable things is that you can change your figurine and the background music of the game. I mean, it is just a bit of flair, but it's nice that they added it. For you to do that, you have to stand up and go towards the right of the room. Both of them are there. And the next thing and the last thing that I want to talk about are a few card changes that they have made. I don't remember them all by heart, but 2 or 3 specific things here to say. First of all, There are a few cost changes, not that you will really remember them, like the Alpha Wolf instead of costing 5 costs 4 or something. It's mostly in the bone cards. The other thing they changed is that most of the cards that spawn cards, like the Beaver or the Beehive or the Anthill or pretty much anything that spawns cards, now also gets the sigils of the cards that spawn them. Also the Dios with the belts, like the belts get the sigils that the Dios has. So if you put spikes on Dios, for example, the belts are going to have spiky. And the nerfed, very important here, the fecundity is nerfed in this mode. Instead of giving you infinite copies, it only gives you 1. So fecundity just copies the card once. There are obviously other few changes here and there, but I guess you're gonna, explore and find them on their own. This is mostly everything you need to know about this. And now let me actually go into... No, these are the big differences, the big changes that might catch you off guard. But yeah, let me go into my save file and now start showing what else there is to show here, like every single challenge. Okay, so I'm back in my save file, obviously at the same spot to not show the pause on pause. And yeah, as you see, I have beaten everything. So let's go through the challenges, because I'm pretty sure people want to know about the challenges, the new cards, and the devlogs, and pretty much I think that's it anyway. So let's go through the challenges first of all. And you know what? First of all, there are decks. So let's go through the decks. As I said, there will be timestamps below to avoid doing stuff. So the decks are the vanilla deck. These are by the way unlockable. You will only begin with a few decks and then you will unlock them slowly. I forgot to showcase them when I was in the non-saved file, but I mean, if you're gonna play this, you're literally gonna see it on your own right away. So we're gonna go through everything unlocked already. First of all, the vanilla deck. It is the vanilla deck. Second, I mean, there isn't anything to explain here. Second thing, we got the... By the way, not only do you have these decks, but when you start the run, you will get 2 pelts. And you will get into a drafting mode, so you always start with 5 cards. The 3 you choose right here, and then +2 randomly from the draft. As I said, the high cost deck, this thing is really good because normally you should just get rid of them all, and then you only have the goat as a 1 cost. Then if you make the goat immortal, you can have an easily running 3 cost deck. Otherwise, this is also a deck you could go for a bone one, as you can sacrifice the goat on the bone lord. So this deck in general is one of the good ones. You got the ant deck, which is also pretty decent. The skink is deceptively good, and it's not insane, but it is really useful until you set up your ants. And then when you have the ants, I mean, it's an ant deck. It's an ant deck. I don't know what more to say. The good thing with the ant deck, which is also something I realized later down the path, is that it's good with insect sigil head. And before you say, yeah, obviously it's good with the sigil insect head, it's better than you think, because in general, insects are good. The only bad insects are ants, but if you're an ant deck, then you can just go all in insects anyway. So this is also a decent deck to play. Then we got the triple strike deck. This is the most powerful deck in the game, in my opinion. I will later, if not already uploaded, but I will later, maybe in an hour, maybe in half an hour, upload my run on every single challenge of the game. So I'm going to repeat this a few more times in this video. And this is how I beat it. So in general, this is an insane deck, obviously. We got the underwater deck. I also did a run with this. I have done a run with all of these, by the way, in case you want to see them. This deck is pretty decent-ish, because having access to, first of all, 2 times the same card means that you can make sure that you will get a good sigil on the one and then on the other and then combine them, right? In general, having very early a copy of something means that you know that you can combine them later, so you can build up the cards for when the combination in the mycologist is going to happen. And it also gives you like this little tentacle dude that might evolve into something good. In case you don't know, this evolves into one of the 3 tentacle cards, so this is actually good. The bone deck, in my opinion, not really a bone deck. This card gives you like a bone each from enemy kills. In general, I don't believe like this is a good deck, but I really enjoy the power of the dire wolf pub. Now here we obviously are seeing some cards that are from this mod specifically, but I'm going to talk about them in a bit. If you're at this point and are getting spoiled about the decks, I guess you're okay with also getting spoiled about the cards. We've got the no cost deck here. Pretty simple deck. Your cards don't cost anything. This is a deck where if you get immortality or if you get fecundity or something, you can obviously break the game right away. Although fecundity is nerfed and also gives you 1 card, so maybe not. And the last deck, but not least, I mean, it is least. So this is the challenge deck / joke deck. It gives you these cards, which these cards open up into 1/5 that attacks 5 times card. But for you to open these cards up and evolve them into that thing, they have to, your deck has to have 1 costs unit that cost No, not cost, not cost. Units that have 1 to 5 life. Then you have to have units that have 1 to 5 damage. And then you also have to have all of the 5 tribes in your deck, which is not really that hard to do. But the thing is that the deck is going to be all over the place. But the trade-off of that is obviously that these cards are an insta-win as they do 5 damage right away and only cost 1 bone. So there's that. Anyway, that is it with the decks. Let's go off to the challenges real quick. So we got no hook for the reason that, you know, you start with hook in this mode. So there is a challenge that makes sure you don't start with the hook. Next challenge is that you have a smaller backpack. So instead of having access to 3 items in the run, you only have access up to 2 items. Pretty simple. You cannot reroll. Also pretty simple. You cannot reroll the cards you get. The trapper pelts cost more. I mean, also pretty simple, just that. The reason I'm saying these all one by one, first of all, people might want to see them. And secondly, I am going to do a run with every single one of these active. This run should be up or is going to go up in half an hour or something. Boss battles are totem battles. I mean, this is pretty dangerous sometimes. Some bosses might get the thing that the Molman does, blocking all the opponent attacks, and then you most likely will get toasted. Otherwise, it might also be that they just move around the cards. Like it can be some bad things, it can be some easy things. As far as I know, it's very specific what can roll, so it is what it is. I don't think they roll Stinky, because Stinky is like insanely damn bad. Start all battles with 1 damage is the next challenge we go here for. Yeah, this will throw you off a bit once in a while. You have to remember that you have to do 6 damage instead of 5 damage from the beginning, and that's it pretty much. The good thing though is that when you transition from boss fight 1 to boss fight 2, you know, from the act, not from the act itself, like from phase 1 to phase 2 of the boss will go back to 5 life instead of 6 again. So at least that is something. Next thing, we got all regular battles are totem battles, so you only fight elites on the road pretty much, depending if you see them as elites. I saw them as elites, so this just makes every single fight be a totem battle. Not really something crazy, but also not really a joke, because some specific totem battles, like Stinky, might kill off your run. Boss avoid regular cards. I mean, this is you just don't have access to rares pretty much, other than the shop. If you want to chase down the rares through the shop, then so you can do that, but you just don't get free Ouroboroses and through Mantis Gods. Then we got twice the more difficult. This thing, as far as I know, just makes it so that once in a while, Leshy just throws another card that normally is not in a combat, right? If you play this game a bunch of times, you will start realizing what cards Leshy plays when, but if you also put the challenges on it, he will start playing more cards that are not part of the fight specifically, because Leshy does specific fights, obviously. He plays specific cards in a specific order in the fights, and this just adds more to those. Single candle is just that you have 1 life, and you also do not get the Bone Lord, you know, the little card in every single boss fight. So this is also a bit more dangerous than it looks. You can just randomly lose the run from a normal fight, and as I said, the boss fights are harder because you don't have the Bone card in your starting hand. Then we got the Annoying Starters, which is that your deck is going to have the Annoying Sigil. In case you don't know what the Annoying Sigil is that the opponents will have +1 attack on facing them. So this makes all your cards give damage, not all your starting cards give damage to all the opposing cards until they die pretty much. And then we got the Squirrelfish. We got like 3 left, the hardest one. The Squirrelfish makes that every single squirrel has the Waterborne Sigil. That means you cannot use the squirrels to buy time. You cannot use the squirrels to throw them in front of 3 attack units, you know, to not lose. You cannot throw them in front of rattlers or anything that does 3 or 4 damage, you know. So this is pretty dangerous, although sometimes it doesn't even matter, because you will just play the squirrel and sacrifice it, but having a blocker when you need it is sometimes important. When it's important when you go against the grizzly bosses. This thing removes all the phase 2 of all 3 boss fights and changes them into grizzly boss fights, which if you want to see it, you just have to, you know, see the video I'm going to upload in 20 minutes, which is going to have every single challenge, and this is not a joke. It might kill you, but in general, this is the hardest challenge in the game. And then the next thing they added is the final boss, the pirate boss. This boss in general is easier than the normal boss, in my opinion. It doesn't really have that many crazy mechanics, and you can see it. It's definitely easier than the normal final boss, in my opinion, once again. And if you choose like all the challenges, they will light up and they will give you 250 challenge points. In general, the challenge points are just something that you need to do to unlock new cards, new decks, and new Devlogs. So yeah, there's that. I don't know why these are happy, by the way, while the rest are not. I guess it's happy to make the game just more difficult while the rest are challenges. I don't know. Yeah, that's it for the challenges. Let's go through the cards real quick. I'm gonna give like a small, explanation of what they do and also how insane they are or not. So, Cuckoo, one of the most powerful cards. This thing lays an egg in the opponent's side of the board, and then you attack above the egg, pretty much. Now, the egg is either a 0-1 that does nothing. When that happens, you literally have a free attacking unit for the rest of the fight, which is insane, especially if you put like flames on it, or if you transfer this whole ability to something else, because the flying is also going to transfer alongside it. The other thing that it could draw is a Raven Egg, which when Lesh is gonna play is instantly gonna evolve, as it's supposed to be on his board at the start of his turn. But the Raven Egg does only 2 damage when it evolves, so as long as the Cuckoo has at least 2 attack, the most that could happen is that you block in a lane and just you do 2 and you also take 2 from that lane for the rest of the fight. Or if you have a 3 attack Cuckoo, then you don't even care, you will slowly out DPS the Raven, so it's an insane card. Next card, Direwolf, also a very good card. As a 3 cost, I mean, it's a good 3 cost, okay? As a 3 cost, it's really good. But the most important part is the sigil. It's a double strike in the middle. This is really good. It literally doubles the damage of every single card you can play or have. And I mean, even on the Cuckoo, it just makes it so it does 2 damage. The moment you flame it once, it does 4 damage, you know? It's a really, really good card to transfer, and it's also important to easily... You can use this to easily beat the final challenge. As I said, I'm gonna do a video. I'm gonna do a video on every single challenge run. That's that the video is gonna be uploaded in a moment. Once again, next card, Direwolf Pup. This thing gives you a bone and evolves into this thing, so it's a really good card. For 2 cost, it evolves into this crazy monstrosity that does... By the way, this does 4 damage per turn, and the good thing with Double Strike is that if an opponent has, for example, 1 life, it will do 2, kill it, and then it will do another 2 Leshy. So Double Strike in general is a really good sigil, and this evolves into it. This thing is just a flying 1/1 ant. Nothing really else to explain. If you're an ant tech, it's good. This here, the Lammergeier, 3 cost, half your bone in damage and 4 life. This thing, when you play it, you should theoretically have at least 4 bones. I mean, practically you will have at least 3 bones, but most of the time you will have at least 4. So this is maybe a 2/4 flyer. Later within the same run, if not the run, the fight, if units start dying or if you start sacrificing more things, this might become a 3/4, a 4/4, a 5/4. This can go completely out of hand. If you have a deck, first of all, if you start with the Bone Lord buff, this will already start as a 4/4. So there are a few ways of using this. I don't really enjoy it, but it's not really a completely trash card. Then we got the Mealworm, which is really good. For 2 bones, you get this, the sigil, I don't even know what the sigil is called. And when you sacrifice this card into something else, then the other card gets buffed. Now, this thing itself is not really that crazy good, but on some specific cards, if you transfer this, this onto them, you might get some good buffs. Otherwise, you can just try to flame this to make it a bit better. Like, or if you make this immortal, with a few things, this becomes a good card. Then we got the Module. It's a 2 cost 2/2, which just gets protected from a hit. As simple as that. Not really that much to say about this. We got the Raccoon, which makes it so that when opponents die, you also gain bones. Not only when your units die, you get bones. I mean, I guess it's good for Bone Deck, but I don't really think it's really that good of a card. Next, a few cards. Let's go a bit quicker through these. Red Heart, its damage is as many sacrifices you have done in this specific round. This is really bad. The moment you play it, it's either a 2/2 or a 3/2 if you sacrifice something else, and the next round's going to be a 0/2, and you will need to sacrifice things to power this up, so it's really bad. I don't know where you're going to find like 5 or 6 sacrifices to do 5 or 6 damage. Not in one turn, I mean in general. I don't know where you're going to find 5 or 6 sacrifices. And even then, it's only going to do 5 damage within like 2 or 3 rounds. Tadpole, this thing is a waterborne unit that evolves into a Bullfrog. The Bullfrog is not a waterborne unit, so the Bullfrog is 1/2. Not really something crazy. The only good thing that it has is that it's 2 cost, so you could use it for infinite sacrifices with immortality or something. Next thing, we got the Wild Bull. By the way, transferring this thing is also good because it has evolution in underwater, so you might create a monster card that also is pretty much immortal through Waterborne. Wild Bull, it's a 2 cost 3/2, so it's a decently statted, and it moves around and throws your card back. So it's literally like the move around sigil, but the difference is that even if something is next to it, it will just swap places with it. It just swaps places while it's also moving. That's what it does. Wolverine, this is a new sigil too. Whenever this thing kills something, it gets +1 damage for the fight. That's it pretty much. The Curious Egg, as I said, you need to have some very specific cards for this to work. You have to have things that have from 1 to 5 life. So you have to have something that has 1 life, something that has 2 life, something that has 3 life, something that has 4 life, and something that has 5 life in your deck. Same goes with damage, and same goes with every single sigil. You have to have, not sigil, every single tribe. So there are 5 tribes like ants, wolves, etc. Canines, flyers, slithers, like whatever, you know, the tribes. You have to have the 5 tribes, and then this evolves into a 1/5 that attacks 5 times. It has a triple strike and also double strike on top of that. So it does like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, I guess bifurcated and trifurcated strike, or whatever they're normally called. So there's that. The Horag is like in Ouroboros, but for damage. So when this thing kills something, it gets +1 damage permanently for the rest of the run, not for the rest of the game, you know, for the rest of the run only. So if you get this early enough, it's gonna be decent. And we got the Mole Man question mark. This is not a Mole Man, this is a card called Xieroeh. This is a 4/1 that has repulsive. That means that nobody can attack it. And how this thing works is that when you play a card, it will randomly become this thing. When this thing is in your deck, this copies, quote unquote, it's an imposter card, right? So it copies itself as the other card. And when you play the card, it might be this thing. I don't know how to explain it. Literally, you just play a card and boom, this thing appears. It's not a Mole Man, as I said, it's a 4/1 with a repulsive. You can even see it in the trailer if you want to see it. And then we got the Peltlice here last, and most likely semi-least. It has double strike, which is decent, so you can take it to transfer it off. And then it also costs 4. Now you might say, what the trash card is this? The good thing with this card is whenever you play a Pelt, in general, when you play a Pelt after this is in your deck, this will just come from within your deck and just join the board for free. So you pretty much are getting forced into a Pelt deck. Now, if you have this thing in your deck and you also have Pelts, you can no longer go to the shop. You can go to the shop to buy Pelts, but you can no longer go to the shop to sell your Pelts for cards, because this thing is pretty much quote-unquote infecting them, and you can no longer like use the Pelts. The reason for that is that your deck does not get destroyed, you know, because at that point you are a Pelt deck, and you want to find more Peltlice if possible through, I don't know, the Painter event, I guess. And yeah, that's it with the cards. Let's go over the challenges now. The starter decks, we talked about them. Let's go over the challenges now. No, we did that. Let's go over the devlogs real quick. And yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna read them. We're just gonna go through them for anybody that wants to, you know, read them on their own. So you can just pause whenever you want. By the way, there is no right or left click here. I have to go through them one by one. So yeah, there's that. And I think that's going to be it pretty much. Like, there isn't really that much more to say. You can play it, as I said, it's a free expansion. It's pretty much a roguelike mode. And as long as you have beaten the game, or just press the control shift. Here is the last one. This here, by the way, is bugged out. You have to beat the game for you to get this. And yeah, as I said, Shift KM for you to play this thing. And if you want to see this entry and care about the devlogs, then you can, you know, join me in my every single challenge run. So as I said, it will either get uploaded in like a few minutes, or it's already up, depending on what I decide to do with this. Whoop, this is the wrong thing. Whoops. This is the right thing. So yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for all my Patreon support. If you also would like to support me, drop a like, helps out the channel immensely. And if this was a help, I guess you could tell me about it in the comments below. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the run that's coming up. Obviously, the run has been shot in mind with my current audience, so I'm not going to be explaining what the cards do. I'm just going to be blasting through the game with every single challenge active. And yeah, as I said, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and see you guys around.